All right. So the plan is today we're doing a light study. For those of you who doesn't know what light study means, it's just like we're making a light map. So what that means is that like we're gonna be adding custom lighting to a normal picture of an athlete, so that I can kind of talk my process and talk about like how to add lights and where to add shadows and stuff like that. So give me a good athlete, bro. Tell me who should I edit? Or Anthony Edwards. All right, let's do Anthony Edwards then, bro. Yo, how about this one? Yeah, kind of that. All right, let's do that. Hopefully, it makes it easy for me today. That's the thing with a select subject. It's really, really nice, but sometimes it just be hallucinating like crazy, bro. Where's my mask? Right here. Like, stuff like this. You wanna add it back, right? So just look for areas that look like it's been intentionally cut off, and then just paint it back on. That's one of the best practices that I like to do. That's our cutout. Uh, where should we put the light? Right side maybe, because I already see some lighting coming from the right. So I'll get my pen out right here. The first thing I always like to do when we're adding lights is I like to um, remove all the existing lights, right? So what do I mean by that? Start with adding the shadows first and then add the lights. So let's see what that means. Adding exposure. Let's see. Okay. And then we're gonna add a red, or sorry, a hue and saturation, and we're gonna use the eyedropper tool to select the most red areas and kind of desaturate them because they're overly exposed, right? Kind of like this. I would make it really, really dark, and then I would add insane texturing to the skin. You go to camera raw filter, you would go into texture, crank that shit up all the way, crank up the clarity, um, the grain, and then crank up the sharpness in the bottom here, right? So you do something like this, boom. You would probably remove the insane graining from the uniform, add some curves to it. Okay, I'm about to give you guys an insane pro tip right here. Ready? Okay. So, as I've talked about before, we can use a lighting assistant tool to add custom lighting. So, what I'll be using this for is just to guide me in the right direction. So, what I mean by that is I'll be adding custom lights here. Um, and then I'll go back into Photoshop and go from there. So what this does here, this stage is just like me planning on where the lighting is gonna fall, where the shadows are gonna fall, and that kind of thing. Okay, we're not gonna use this as like the end all be all lighting. This is just a roadmap for us, right? So let's just start with light two. We know we want to add like a little bit of a bluish type of lighting onto this. So maybe something like that. And then distance we're going to reduce, right? Not even blue, we're just going to go white because we're going to add this in a Photoshop later anyway. But you see what it does? It tells you like where, when you go back into Photoshop, how and where to paint the lights, right? We're going to add this one maybe somewhere far so that his whole like arm is kind of lit up and the right side of his face. And then light one, we're also going to make that white. I want to add another light. I want to add this one on this side. All right, so let's go with that. Download, and then it tells you where it's going to download. So just a PNG right there. Only issue with this website is that it's a very low quality unless you buy their premium version of the website. But we're not going to be doing all that today. So let's just export this and see how far we could go. Okay. Right. So you can see how bad the quality gets, right? Going from there back into Photoshop. But because we're only going to be using it as a reference, We don't really care. So from there, you can literally just like even start tracing, right? So what I mean by that is I'm gonna start with an hue and saturation layer, and I will apply it as a clipping mask, turn it up all the way, go there, select a nice brush. Now here's the thing with me, I don't really have a lot of nice brushes per se, but we're gonna try and find a decent brush still. So like I said, we could just literally start tracing. Just like start sketching over the areas that you think should be lit up. Luckily for us, we have a reference, right? So it's a lot easier for us to kind of determine where to paint and how to paint these lights on because of that reference. Okay, something like that. And then I don't even have a good hairbrush, but I'll just do that later. And go here. Oh, where's my background, by the way? Yeah, this makes it much easier. Again, you know where the light's going to be falling here. See how much easier the reference makes it. Do you put pressure on when you're drawing light? Gotta try it. My pressure right now is off, but I am putting pressure on my tablet. And see, that's what I meant. If you were doing this and I had used a smudge tool to kind of smooth some of the areas out, the lighting would have looked way better. But I'm trying to go for a little bit of a different type of style, but like really sharp skin textures, and then adding hand drawn lighting on it. Okay, it's actually not bad. I think we would benefit from adding more darkness. Much better, right? So this is the lighting we just painted. So then now how do I add a nice blue lighting? I'm gonna apply a Gaussian blur onto the second layer of lighting right here. Blur, Gaussian blur. And then we're gonna add another layer right here of hue and saturation. And I'm gonna use the blend if to like really bring all the blues together. Okay, it gives the whole thing a nice blue edge light. Oh, I want to also make this more dark so that create an outer glow. Uh, Maybe make it screen. Very subtle though. Give it that dreamy effect, you know? And how we're gonna execute that is we're gonna invert the whole thing and just add it back to the places we know we need it. For example, try out your CapCut, bro. I will. That's gonna make the whole thing pop. Okay. We try a brightness layer also to see. Okay. Let's try the CapCut method now. Okay, so import it into the timeline. We're gonna go into our favorite bloom effect. I'm gonna add that right here. Give it that nice bloom type of look. You don't go too crazy with it though, you know. Most likely we're gonna have to mask out some of the stuff that we don't need. Maybe mask it a little bit. I don't want the jersey to be glowing that much, you know. Let me invert this. How do I invert that? Right there. Export as 4K. Let's do that. All right. Let me bring that over. Boom. Right there. With the extra bloom on top of the stuff that we did already. But basically, guys, if we want to look at the before versus after, I will show you guys right now. That was the before versus after right there. Hand painted lighting, added some bloom, used some assistance. And now if we really wanted to like enhance it, we could just apply the grain to it, you know? Go to camera raw. This is my favorite thing to do, bro. Like after working like 7, 8 hours on a piece, you go into camera raw knowing that, you know, you're about to end it, you're about to finish it. This is the culmination. That's the most satisfying part to me. It's so funny how grain really brings everything together. It really does, bro. It really, really does. That's the thing. And then I don't know how many of you guys use this lens blur feature on the new Camera Raw. I find it works really, really well. It uses AI to find out the depth in your design, and then, but it works really well, bro. Something like that. Yeah, right there, boys. Thoughts before after.